Hey, good morning everyone. Xander here with another video. I hope you enjoyed my Peter McKinnon style coffee intro. Kind of sucked. I want to show off this brand new Nespresso machine a friend of mine got me as a gift, so major shout out to them. Thank you so much. It certainly does not help with my caffeine addiction. But anyway, today's video is gonna be a short video. Just want to share my thoughts on the new Insta360 camera that they just premiered this past Tuesday in an announcement on YouTube. It looks like a sequel, a follow-up, or rather an upgrade to the core system to the Insta360 One R. In this video, I'm gonna go over what it entails for the action camera market, what I think about this camera, and what its capabilities might be if you're interested in getting it. So stick around for this video. I'm gonna share my thoughts on it, and let's get right into it. Nothing like starting a good old Xander Tech Talks video with a good cup of Joe, right? I'm addicted, and getting this Nespresso machine will change my life for better or for worse. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Xander here with another video. We got to talk about the new Insta360 One RS camera being dropped. Had a lot of my subscribers actually hit me up asking if I had known about the Insta360 and what I think about it. And I do have several things I want to talk about concerning that camera. First of all, Insta360 produces phenomenal action cameras. Kudos to them. They have been very innovative the last year or so. I'm a huge fan of that Insta Go. I really want to get that camera only because it kind of opens up my world in terms of getting creative angles. I'll probably eventually get that camera, but that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is about that new One RS that came out, that Insta360 unveiled this past Tuesday. Very much love the intuitive end user application, using your smartphone app to get your footage and then pretty much frame all your shots with that. Very cool. I see they borrowed that concept from GoPro, but they've kind of made it more refined, more intuitive, more user-friendly, which is great. Can't knock that. That's awesome. Full disclosure, I've never owned one. I currently do not own an Insta360 action camera. If there was one that I really wanted to get, I wanted to get that 1-inch Leica mod. Huge fan of that 1-inch sensor that they use. Beautiful image quality from that. That's a camera that I'm interested in because of its low light capabilities, the larger sensor. Hey, Insta360, if you're watching this video, if you want to send me a camera so I can play with and, add that to my channel, maybe give you a good old review from my end, I am totally open to that. That is a shameless self-promotion I'm throwing out there. And talking about shameless self-promotion, if you're liking the content, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Consider smashing that subscribe button too if you're new to the channel. I'm just gonna go over briefly what I like and what I don't like about the new Insta360 One RS. So if you haven't seen it already, Insta360 has unveiled the brand new One RS, which is really an upgraded core unit to the One R module that came out, I believe, a year ago? Close to 2 years ago now? Don't quote me on that. That seems to be an upgrade to the core unit itself, and you can continue to use the modular functionality of all their other lenses that they have, like the 4K, the 360 camera mod, and the 1-inch Leica lens that I told you about earlier. They've added a bunch of new features to it, and I'll briefly run through it really quick. And these are the things I like from what I have seen. The fact that they have a instant zoom now feature on this One RS is great. Long gone do you have to crop in post, filming in higher resolutions like I do. I film in 4K and higher, and I usually crop in if I want to get that nice, good reframe shot for all my action cameras now. That's something I learned from my previous years, and that's something that is very, very useful for filmmakers. Active HDR is probably the one feature that I'm most excited about. I have seen fellow YouTubers already posting footage from their Insta360 One RS, and the active HDR looks pretty awesome. The fact that you can go into any different setting and don't have to worry about any overexposure or super bright conditions and then having to switch to a different condition, and then just the exposure gets thrown off with your imaging. The fact that that built-in HDR video kicks in and pretty much saves that dynamic range and your highlights and your shadows blown out of proportion, and it saves that picture, that's awesome. That's great that you have that built into the system. And you don't, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, as a filmmaker, you don't really have to worry about filming in a log flat color profile and then having to go in and post and recorrect the colors and the highlights and the shadows and try to save all that after the fact, especially if you were already filming in non-auto exposure settings, or even if you got messed up with some auto white balance and auto exposure settings on your previous cameras that you were filming with. That's great that you have that active HDR setting. I really, really like that, and it's recommended that you use that in well-lit scenarios so you can save the picture when you are shifting your angles and perhaps the sun is behind you as you're vlogging, and it'll save those shadows and actually give you a good high quality image of yourself. So that's great. Love that about the new One RS. Really quick also, that they are marketing that new 4K boost lens for the One RS, and from what I understand, it is a slightly larger sensor and you can get some awesome 48 megapixel stills from your videos with that new sensor, which is great. I mean, those pictures that I've seen from One RS, and I'll put them in the video here from examples I've seen, they look great. I don't know if you're going to go around using an action camera as a photo camera, but some people do. I do sometimes go back and grab a frame or two from my videos and use them as thumbnails, so it's great to have that luxury as well. And now Insta360 finally has their built-in flow state stabilization. You no longer have to go in after the fact in post using third-party plugins or using their app to actually stabilize your footage after recording and apply the flow state stabilization. This feature looks like it's now built in to the One RS, which honestly, that's something that should have probably been built in from the beginning, if we're being honest. But hey, you don't have to now worry about that in post. That's always nice. From what I understand too, you can turn that off if you like, just like the GoPro, you can turn off their hyper smooth as well in the camera system itself. Sound quality looks like it's been improved as well. They now have 3 built-in mics as opposed to the 2 they had before, from what I understood. And from what I've seen, they have a new mounting bracket that serves as a bit of a wind protector. Looks awesome. That's great. Those are nice things to have in this new action camera. For me, I always try to improve my audio in every video I do. I feel audio is more important than a great image. You can have the world's greatest image and your audio sucks, and 9 times out of 10, everyone will turn off that video. They will not want to watch that, much less listen to that. So those are the 4 main things I liked about the One RS. Looks pretty good. Price point, from what I understood too, actually, what is the price? Just so I got my facts straight here. Okay, so currently, the base model for the Insta360 One RS 4K edition comes in at about $300. So you can go ahead and grab that new One RS for $300 right off the Insta360 website, and I'm looking at the editions here. You can also bundle up. From what I see here from the website, you can customize and choose whatever edition you're interested in, but the 4K edition with the One RS is $300 solid. So that's $50 cheaper than the GoPro 10, and the GoPro 10 at $350 with the GoPro subscription. So there you have it, guys. $300 nabs you the One RS with a 4K lens. Now that we've got that out of the way and we did discuss what I do like about the One RS, we have to talk about what I don't like. I am super disappointed that One RS still has just the single screen, guys. Like, it's 2022. Why did this not come with a dual screen? With the GoPro 9, see, you actually have a front-facing screen now. Go ahead and check that out right there. See, you get that front-facing screen now, and you have your back screen, to frame your shots. That's given. That should be with every action camera. The DJI Osmo Action actually did it first with that front-facing screen. Unfortunately, the screen wouldn't power on at the same time as the back screen. You actually had to click a mode button on that action camera to switch between screens, but at least you had that. The fact that we're in 2022 and they still sport just one screen, and Xander, you can actually take the camera apart, switch it around, and then you have the front-facing screen. No, nobody has time for that. nobody asked for that feature. Who here is gonna sit here, film with the Insta360, and like, oh, now I gotta flip this thing around, and now I can vlog, and now I'm doing the vlog narrative portion of my video. No, Insta360. I don't understand why you did that. You should have had a screen on both ends, and you would have had a killer camera. That's a bit of, it's a little nitpicky, and we're spoiled with that regard, but come on, guys. The 9 does it, the 10 is doing it now too. The only exception that you don't really need that screen is for a 360 camera, which I understand the Insta360 1RS and 1R both have a 360 camera module, and that's fine. That's great. But for the 4K boost lens and the 4K lens itself, you don't have that. Like, to me, it feels like you dropped the ball. But that's just me being nitpicky. The 4K boost lens doesn't support a higher frame rate than 60 frames per second in 4K. And we are in 2022. I was expecting this thing to at least cap off at 120 frames per second at 4K. What happened here? I mean, the fact that you only get 60 frames at 4K, that's a little ridiculous. The GoPro Hero 10, you get 60 frames at 4K, but you also get 120. I don't know, 4K, 60 frames per second. I feel like you should have at least gotten 120 frames per second, but it is what it is. The fact that the flow state stabilization is now built into the camera, I was just like, why are you advertising that? That's something you should have had from the beginning. That's like a lemonade stand selling lemon juice with no sugar, and they're giving you sugar packs and like, here you go, make the lemonade yourself. Like, okay. Now the lemonade stand is actually selling lemonade that's sugary. Like, I don't have to add sugar to it. That's why. Why am I paying you all this money and I still have to put in so much work? It should have come with the service, but whatever. That's me being entitled, me being bratty. Whatever. I'm just being honest though. I thought it was kind of humorous that they were marketing like, oh, by the way, flow state's built in now. I'm like, you should have had this built in from the beginning that I can turn on and off, but whatever. Anyway, final thoughts. No doubt the upgraded core is very nice. I really love that new active HDR feature they have. I'm sure that the system runs a lot smoother than the actual 1R, the previous model. I would love to test it out and play with it. I'm not made of money, guys, so I don't have all these cameras that I can buy and just throw on my credit card and try them all out. I only have 200 something subscribers. I'm not, you know, your crazy tech guy. I'm getting there though. I'm getting there. Again, the only thing is that if there was an Insta360 camera I do want to get, and specifically that I am very interested in, it's that Leica 1-inch sensor, that 1-inch lens. I really love that image quality. I just hate that the focal length of that lens, which is understandable that it's fixed, and I get it, that you can't really get a good focus on your subject. You would have to literally keep that camera out pretty far out from your face to get any sort of good image quality and good focus on your subject, your face. But that's nitpicky. I pretty much would use that 1-inch just to get some pretty awesome, you know, B-roll, especially in low light conditions. And Insta360, again, if you're listening to this and you don't like my review, I'm just being honest from what I've seen, and maybe I missed a couple of things. Let me know in the comments, guys. I'm sure there are plenty of subscribers of mine that sport Insta360 cameras, that they love them, and that maybe there's a couple of things I missed. Please enlighten me. I'm not saying they're horrible cameras. I think they're pretty great. They just have some work to do in some regards. From what I've seen too, they're kind of relatively young in terms of the action camera market too. If you guys want to send me a test model, by all means. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. If there's something I missed, again, let me know in the comments. It looks awesome. The 1RS, the active HDR, the flow state stabilization now built into it, and I'm excited to see what Insta360 comes up with next, to see what other lenses maybe they can add up to their modular lineup. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Sorry that most of this video was probably just, maybe I should just make a playlist of Xander rants instead of Xander tech talks, because I didn't really go over, like, I mean, I went over the camera and I'm sharing my thoughts, but I didn't have the camera. But I'm sure, you know, there's plenty of other content creators who actually have the camera and they can probably give you a better review than I did. But just wanted to share my thoughts. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Until next time, I'm Xander, and I'll catch you all on the wild side. Peace!